Sounds good.
Oh, good morning, everyone. If you've been on these webinars before, I probably look familiar, maybe too familiar, but I wanted to thank you all for jumping on this today. Now, as Allison said, she's going to be moderating the chat box, so she'll jump in with your questions probably in the middle, and we maybe even have time for some at the end. So we'll take it as it comes on questions. Just a couple things before we get rolling here. Pride's Corner always has tons of new plants, and so it's sort of impossible to put together one of these programs and go through everything. So what we've tried to do is go through and look at some of the most important ones and some of the ones that really, frankly, that we still have good inventory on. There's not really much sense in me talking about a great new plant without you being able to get it. So that's how we chose many of these plants. We've got a group of shrubs, we got some roses, we got some perennials, and we actually even have a sneak peek at plants coming along for 2023, just to give you an idea of what's up the road. So I'm going to get started here and begin talking about some of these great new plants that we have. And all right. So first plant's a tree, and this is part of the first editions program. I really love this plant, and because it's so functional in the landscape, having these narrow trees, narrow deciduous trees, as we know out there, these are very difficult to find, but this plant fills a great niche in the landscape. Very easy to grow, very hardy. You can see how narrow and upright this plant is. You can use it in these narrow spaces as long as you have some good up space, but it's perfect for barriers. It's perfect for grouping along a border, and actually makes kind of a neat looking specimen too. Good white bark, there's no doubt about it. As you can see on the picture on the right, excellent fall color, a really nice yellow fall color. And a little bit different kind of look if you're creating a barrier plant. This is Bachelor Parkland pillar. I think it's really one of the best trees in the program because it is so functional. Well, as we all know, there's a lot of Buddleias out there, and it seems like even the perennial world now, everybody wants to breed Buddleia, and well, I get it. You know, they're good looking plants, a lot of flower power, great at attracting pollinators. There's no doubt about it. So how do you sort out some of these things? Well, we have a couple new plants here from Star Plants called Buddleia Dapper Lavender and Dapper White. And so what makes these so different? Well, they're a compact form, and you can think of them sort of as a similar height and width to the pugsters. But what I find about them that's a little bit different is that the flowers are, there's so many different flowers. They're a vigorous grower, so they're always putting out new buds. You can see, look at the lavender on the white on the left there. You can see those flowers that are open. There's some that are just opening, some have been open for a while. And look at all that bud count behind that. So these are showy plants, good stems. This isn't really one of those Buddleias that's fragile, that you touch it and a branch breaks. I know there's a number of them out there that has been an issue with. So small space, great color, and bloom all summer. And of course, as I touched on earlier, the great thing about Buddleia is the color you get from the different butterflies and other pollinators that come to the garden. So perfect for massing in an area, love full sun. Obviously, they love full, well-drained soil. Once they get established, they're even quite drought resistant in the landscape. So a lot to recommend here on this particular group of plants.
So Tim, we had a couple questions about the birch. They wanted to know about if it was had any disease resistance to it.
That's a great question. I do not see that I've not read anything in particular that says it's more disease resistant, and we can come up with that information. I apologize, I don't know that right off. This is another first editions plant here, and you're going to see that there's three Buddleia here in their program. It's Buddleia Funky Fuchsia, Groovy Grape, and Psychedelic Sky. You know, I guess whoever's naming it, Bailey's, has a little 60s throwback thing going there, which is good. But what do we like about these plants? Well, the colors are pretty upfront, which you want in a Buddleia. They really show off in the garden. I like this Funky Fuchsia. I think that color is kind of underserved in the garden. But everybody kind of gravitates towards some of these darker colors too. So you got red, you got that kind of dark purple, and in Psychedelic Sky, you got kind of that bluish look to them. So what are these like in the garden? Well, these are larger size and larger flowered Buddleia. They're going to take up a little bit more room. They're really more of a background plant. You can group with them. They're very fragrant. They're great for cut flowers, all the things that you like about Buddleia, just in a little bit bigger package. So in comparison to those dappers that you saw, these are much bigger, much broader. As with you can do with any Buddleia, you can do some pruning on them in season and they'll rebloom even better for you. But this is a great heavy bloomer, just a little bit larger profile, and a great, I think, a great summer addition to fill out that first editions program. So we have Funky Fuchsia, Groovy Grape, and Psychedelic Sky, all available still with us at this point.
So, Tim, sorry to interrupt you again, but there's a couple questions about these Buddleias, if they are sterile, if they're invasive, how do they really help pollinators? There's a couple questions about that.
Well, let's talk about the invasive thing. Many of these are, you'll notice that none of them say seed-free, so that's a key. There's no doubt about it. Many of these things are bred to have less seed and be less of an issue than some of the older school varieties. But my sense is that there's some, it's definitely some fertile seed here, or they would probably be playing that up. Like I said, most breeding programs currently with Buddleia, especially in the programs, seem to be trying to gravitate towards varieties that produce less fertile seed. But I don't think I could go out there and say that these particular plants are totally non-invasive or totally fertile seed free. And what was the other question?
They were looking at if Buddleias really do help pollinators. And then we had another question about the birch, wanting to know how long-lived it was.
I think, I don't think, well, let's talk about the birch. The birch is no longer lived or shorter lived than birch. Birch happens to be a tree that is not, well, let me couch this and say you can find lots of old maples out there. You can find 100, 200-year maples, and they tend to be longer lived trees. Birch are not what I would consider a longer lived tree. But what does that really mean? Well, it doesn't mean that it's a 10-year plant and it's then it's kind of disappearing. Birch have a tendency to be sort of in that 30 to 50-year kind of cycle. So they're fairly long-lived, but they're not a tree that you're going to usually find, 100, 200-year-old birches around out there. I'm not sure whether that completely answers the question, but it's they are a good medium-lived tree, I guess I would say. And as far as the do Buddleias help pollinators? Well, I think anything that provides them the opportunity to pick up some food, our native, let me put it to you this way, our native insects? Have they developed their life cycle with these plants? Well, obviously they probably have not, because these are not native plants, but they do have the opportunity. They do provide food, and they for nectar for these insects. So it's not entirely that they're bad for them. It just may not be that it's a lifestyle enhancement as much as some of these native plants, like we're going to talk about this Cephalanthus coming up here. But if you want native plants to really kind of cover that whole life cycle and provide some of that stuff specifically for native pollinators that have developed with those native pollinators, certainly these are the better plants. Now, having said that about Buddleia, they certainly bring a lot of native and non-native butterflies to the garden, which is always a great thing for viewing. And if you have other plants, other native plants in the landscape, they're probably going to find those too. So I would say that it all depends on the angle that you're looking at. So let's talk about this Cephalanthus. And maybe if you tuned into last year's webinar, you saw some of these plants because we were just introducing them, but I felt that it was important to talk about these great new shrubs, these exclusive shrubs in the American Beauty's Native Plant Program, just to kind of reinforce these with you. So this one is Cephalanthus crimson comets. What do we like about this plant? Well, Cephalanthus, as you may or may not know, is kind of a bigger scale plant. There's no two ways about it. And what's great about Cephalanthus is it grows in moist areas. It has it really is a survivor in the landscape, and it really is a great plant for sustaining native pollinators, birds, bees, butterflies, etc. So it's kind of a different looking plant, isn't it? As all Cephalanthus are. You look at that on the right there. That's the flower in full bloom. Sort of looks like a satellite, if you will. Growing up, I'm old. I grew up in the '60s. I remember seeing satellites that looked like this. It kind of looks space agey to me. But that flower is really attractive to pollinators. And you go to the left side and you'll see the big red seed structure left from the flower. Now that's exceedingly attractive, and it does get that color. It's much more impressive than some of the other Cephalanthus that are on the market just because of that. And birds really like the seed that are in these seed heads that are left as we go head towards fall and winter. The other thing I can say about this plant is that of all the Cephalanthus we have, the fall color is far more striking. That red color, I just don't see it as much on a lot of the other Cephalanthus. So it's got a couple great things working for it: the color, the fruiting structure color, the bloom, the ability for it to support pollinators, and honestly, the ability to grow it in sometimes what is a difficult area, which is wet areas. So we really like this plant, and this is to me one of the key plants if you're growing a bigger landscape and you want to put plants in there that maybe are not out in front but really support pollinators. So this is Cephalanthus crimson comets.
So Tim, Rachel asked, she wanted to know, does it spread or is it easy to contain in the landscape?
Well, as you can see, it's a good question, but as you can see, this is a 6 to 10 foot plant. It doesn't really spread it doesn't have stolons that go out, so it's not really a spreader in that sense. And obviously, it can be pruned. There's no two ways about it. But if you're looking to put this in a spot that's kind of a 3x4 or 4x5, this is a strong growing plant. It's gonna fight you for that space. There's no doubt about it. So like all plants, I think it's a good thing to make sure that you're putting it in the space that it fits in.
Those are like wetter conditions, right, Tim? Is that?
I'm sorry?
Right. So Nancy wanted to know what type of soil does it grow in?
Well, Cephalanthus is a very tolerant type of plant. So it will grow it'll grow fine in great soil. It'll tolerate well-drained soil well. And as we said, it'll tolerate heavier soils well. It's native to here, so obviously it's going to tolerate the acidic conditions that we have around here. And so it's not incredibly fussy is what I would say for a soil type. Here's a second of the new American Beauty's native plants exclusives that we have, and this is Vela Ruby Wren. Now, Vela, and many of you may know this or may not know this. This is a plant that the guys in the upper Midwest really depend on in their landscapes. It's really what I would call a survivor. It's used probably as often as we use something like Rouge in our area. You know, it's that same kind of plant. It survives really poor soils. It's just kind of it just gets into that soil. Once you get it established, man, it is solid, and it does it, and it really looks much more refined in a lot of ways than I think something like Rouge is. So we in the Northeast have not really gotten the message on this plant, I have a feeling. But I would also add that this plant, even though it'll tolerate poor soil areas, it's also a great plant to put in landscape, a more formalized landscape. It's pretty compact plant. It gets a little wider than tall, very hardy, as you can see. Zone 3 kind of tolerates full sun, but it'll take partial sun. And some of the things that really make it stand out, one is that it's got this very nice crimson flush when the new foliage comes out, or if you happen to prune the plant in the middle of the season, you'll get again that nice little real red flush on it that's noticeable for a number of weeks after it flushes. It's great for small spaces because of the size. Got a very nice orange and yellow fall color. But the one thing that I think is underrated about this plant is the amount that it blooms. And you can see that one of our native friends over there in the left-hand picture at those flowers. And they're small yellow flowers, but there's plenty of them. And you can see there's little groups of them. It's kind of a different texture. It's not going to blow you away with its huge bloom or crazy color, but it is very effective. I think it's a great bloomer. I think it has more flowers on it than many of the other straight species Vela that are out there. So I would recommend this plant. And there's also a small fruit on it that birds in the fall will seek out too. So a lot going on with it. Tolerates a lot of bad areas, nice size, it's great for grouping. This is Vela Ruby Wren.
Tim, do you know what is the deer resistance on that plant? Do you know?
Vela, I think I'm going to say I think. I don't know for sure on that, but I think I've seen that it is fairly deer tolerant. So I'd have to check to be sure on that, but it is one of those plants that I have not seen on the list of deer favorites kind of thing.
We had another quick question before you jump into the next plant. Vanessa wanted to know if we were going to be carrying Bachelor Little Prince.
Bachelor Little Prince?
Mm-hmm.
No, not at this point. And I'll be completely honest with you, I'm not as familiar with that plant, but you got me sort of interested. I'll take a look and see what that plant is. Maybe there's opportunity for us as the years into next year and the year after.
Do you know, so one more question just came through from David. He wanted to know if the Vela is salt tolerant.
All Vela are pretty salt tolerant. And again, you can see them if you go to the upper Midwest, you can see them in traffic islands out in the middle of these busy traffic areas. And believe me, you talk about seashore planting, those are much more, those areas are much more of an issue for salt than than the seashore tends to be, and frankly, they do very well there. Well, this is an interesting plant here. This is a proven winners plant. It's got kind of an interesting history. This plant was absolutely huge in Europe for a number of years. Really, I believe started in Asia and moved to Europe. They marketed the heck out of this plant, and it sold like crazy over there. And you know, a lot of things obviously from Europe comes our way, but this is kind of an interesting plant for us in the Northeast. It's not really going to be a hardy plant until you get to Long Island or the Mid-Atlantic. So it's not really like your regular hydrangea, but man, this plant just is a blooming fool. It just blooms like crazy. It's got this little bit different flower form, as you can see. The real reason this has been so big is really just that flower power. It's just incredibly floriferous. It's kind of a little bit of a trailing plant also. So in Europe, they've put it in hanging baskets at times, which I know a lot of people in America are starting to look at different shrubs, different hydrangeas that might make that transition pretty well. It's a larger plant, but at maturity, 4 to 5 feet, not huge. I mean, you know, if you're trying to grow it to, let's say, in zone 6, you'd have to really protect it. There's no two ways about it. It's a little bit of a novelty plant, but we're sort of excited about it. It kind of hits maybe more of the gift market, that kind of thing. And you know, it actually is a pretty good pollinator plant also. So this is Hydrangea Fairy Trail Bride. Got a bunch available, and as you can see, you know, when this is in bloom, people are going to be they are going to be attracted to it. There's just a lot of power there. So our friend Dr. Michael Durr. You know, you'd think there'd be a man that would rest on his laurels. You know, he's been in the industry forever, and that guy still has so much energy. It's unbelievable. And he's out there, you know, working down that Georgia area, and he's still breeding plants and crossing, and he's always got something exciting to talk about. And we feel this is one of the most exciting plants that he's come up with. And this is Hydrangea Rock and Roll. And so what's great about this plant, it's pretty floriferous. I've been saying that about a lot of plants, but this one truly is. This is a sport or a cross with well, no, I guess it is a sport now that I think about it, of Endless Summer Twist and Shout. So it has some of that thing that we really like about Twist and Shout. It's got those dark stems. It's got that really nice deep foliage. But one of the things about Twist and Shout is that it tends to be a little gangly. We know that. Tends to be a lace cap flower. Of course, it is a lace cap flower, and makes it less popular because of that, although I happen to be kind of partial to lace cap flowers. But let's face it, mop head flowers like you're seeing this one has are the things that always win the day. So, you know, depending on the acidity of the soil, it's going to be kind of blue or even a deeper blue, as you can see in the picture. You know, in the Midwest, this would probably be a much pinker plant, but we're lucky we don't have to deal with, you know, pinks just aren't exciting here in this part of the country. It's got to be blue, and it's a good thing that this one is. It's a heavy bloomer. It's kind of a medium-sized hydrangea, I guess is how I would put it, 4 to 5 feet tall and wide. Easy to grow, very tough. You know, it's rated as zone 5. This could be a plant like Twist and Shout that might be just a little bit hardier than that, but probably hasn't been completely tested. But this Michael Durr selection we're excited about. And this is Hydrangea Macrophylla Rock and Roll.
So Tim, one quick question that came through about the fairy trail. Jan wanted to know if it blooms the first year and if maybe it could be kind of used as an annual type of a situation.
Well, it blooms on old and new wood, yes. So you know, you possibly could do it like that. There's no doubt. This is a new proven winners plant. This is called Hydrangea Invincibelle Garnetta. And, you know, as we know, the pink Annabelle type hydrangeas have had kind of a checkered history. There's no doubt about it. You know, there was a rush to get these pink flowers out. And, you know, the first plants out there by some of these brands, quite frankly, were not the best plants in the world. And over the last 10 years, there's been a lot more of these new plants that have come out. Each successive generation has been better. And this may be the culmination of that right here. This Garnetta is a dense, kind of really compact plant. As you can see, it's kind of like a 2 to 3 foot by 2 to 3 foot, like all Annabelle types and the rest of the Invincibelle selection here from proven winners. Exceedingly hardy, perfect for real cold climates. That color, really love the color on this. They're almost not pink now. They're kind of that deep, almost reddish pink color. Stems are strong. This was one of the biggest failings of many of these plants when they first came out, but these are dense, compact, strong stems. And what I really like about this plant is really how dark the foliage is. I mean, those flowers put on a great show backed by that really deep green foliage. So, and it keeps blooming all summer, which is also a great thing. So there's a lot here in this plant that I can tell you that if you had some prejudice against pink flowering Annabelles at some point, you were probably right to think that, but the plants like this one, like Garnetta, are just much better plants than they were a number of years ago. So this is Hydrangea Invincibelle Garnetta. Now, I need to talk about these lace cap hydrangeas here. They do get a bad rap out there by everybody that's kind of, let's say, seduced by all those mop heads that are out there. And don't get me wrong, the mop head hydrangea are beautiful. And we in our area of the country here along the coast of New England, we have a great opportunity to see these shows all the time in the summer. But the lace cap flowers like this one, and this is another one of the exclusive American Beauty's native plants, woodies, called Hydrangea Pinky Pollen Ring. These lace cap flowers really get, they kind of get the short shift, and they shouldn't, because while they may not be as big and showy in your landscape, they have great show, and they also bring the pollinators in like crazy. And all I can tell you is if you go to the seashore and you see those mop head flowers and then see a lace cap like this, it's hard not to see that those lace caps have like so many more pollinators on them. It's just unbelievable. These are great pollinator plants. They love these things. There's native bees all over these things. The butterflies and moths visit these, and you say, well, you know, is it really a great plant? Maybe the flower is good, but is it a great plant? This plant continues to surprise us here at Pride's Corner. We sold a lot of these last year. We sort of didn't really try, and people may be seeing the benefits of these plants out there now. So it's got that lace cap flower. It's awesome for pollinators. Like any of these plants, they'll grow in full sun, and but they love partial shade, morning sun, afternoon shade kind of thing. Exceedingly easy to grow, zone 3 hardy, and again, very stiff stems. They have almost kind of the stems themselves almost have kind of a pinkish blush on them. They're really subtle but kind of attractive. great color, not deep and dark, but dark in bud. As the sterile flowers open up, they're kind of a lighter pink that really shows off that inner ring, that inner center of darker fertile flowers. This plant's got a lot going for it. Stiff stems, it's got the package. And this is, to me, this is one of really the great pollinator plants you can bring into the garden and have great color all summer. So this is Hydrangea pinky pollen ring. Well, I'd be crazy not to tell you that the market is, you know, we're bombarded with Hydrangea macrophyllas around here, and probably to a certain extent paniculatas too. And it's sort of interesting, you know, we always have this argument, well, what are we going to do with all these things? Are we really going to grow all these things? And the answer is, it seems like we're growing a lot of them, because when you get great plants in here like this, you find it really difficult to make choices about what you should not grow. And here's a couple of great blooming easy plants that I'll have to say that we're kind of excited about. Let's start with Cherry Go Round here. It's probably the reddest of reds that I've seen out there, and it has a little bit of that, also that dark foliage, which makes it look like almost this mysterious sort of reddish plant out there. It's kind of a great look, if you ask me. Very compact, obviously a great mop head flower, and really a sharp color. Now, what we don't know at this point here in the acid soil capital of the United States, we don't know what this color is going to turn to. I have a suspicion it's going to be kind of a deeper red, if not a purple color, but we don't know that yet. We haven't really looked at it in the landscape as much, but it's another one of these real dense full plants, great for small spaces, obviously blooms a lot. And as you can see, it's you know, it's a rebloomer. You can see those flowers out on this picture, and you can also see the buds coming on. So this is Hydrangea Cherry Go Round. Now on the right side, you see pink Dynamo. And I know for a fact that the guys at Bloomin' Easy are just completely head over heels about this plant. And they're in 23, they are going to be promoting the heck out of this plant. So let's talk about that a little bit. What can we say that makes them so excited about this plant? Well, I look at it, and without even looking at the flower, I'd say, man, that foliage is killer. Look at that dark foliage, the dark stems, that kind of thing. And you know something, I really love that flower. Again, you know, maybe I'm a little partial to this different format, but I look at that color flower and I say, man, that kind of really shows off perfectly against that foliage. I actually think it shows off even better than a blue color would. I just think that this goes together. Again, it's dense and full. This is Hydrangea Macrophylla Pink Dynamo, and I know for a fact that you're going to see more of this because they feel that this is their kind of top of the line hydrangea coming on for Bloomin' Easy. So let's just keep your eye open for that stuff. Okay, this hydrangea right here is really the big introduction for 2022 for proven winners. And you know, Little Lime, regular Little Lime is one of our really, it's a top 2 or 3 hydrangea for us. You know, it's kind of compact, which is great, and it's pretty floriferous, and it's got that nice lime green color. And I'm talking about regular Little Lime now. But what Little Lime does not have is flowers that age well. They have a tendency to kind of go more greenish and then brownish. You know, it blooms well, don't get me wrong, we love the plant, but then we look at Little Lime Punch here and look at how those flowers age. And it just gives you a whole longer season of great color. It, you know, again, blooms like crazy. It has the same compactness. It's exceedingly hardy, but it's really hard to to not be excited about seeing that pink to almost dark red color of these aging flowers. And I know there's more and more of these hydrangea out there, but you put the little line package and have that color, man, I got to tell you, that's to me, that's exciting. We're fired up about this plant. We got plenty to sell here, and this is a plant that I think your customers are going to love. So this is Hydrangea Little Line Punch.
So Tim, Stephen wanted to know on that one, with those huge flowers, do they end up kind of drooping at the end of the day?
You're talking about on the paniculatas, like this particular one?
Yeah, Little Line Punch.
No, I haven't seen that at all. No, and I haven't seen that much on really any of the. I see that a lot more on macrophyllas. That's a definite problem we see with macrophyllas, except especially for what we would call some of these softer flowered ones. And a lot of the hardier macrophyllas are that, but I've really never seen too much of an issue with that on these paniculatas.
One more quick question about pink Dynamo. Do you think that'll be pink in the acidic soil?
I think we're experimenting with that this year to try to get a better read on that. So we will probably try to color a few or acidify the soil. As many of you know, the mixes that we grow these plants in are mostly not alkaline, but they're mostly neutral. So they're not like the soils in the ground like here in the Northeast. So for us to get you that blue color on plants, we have to add acid to the soil. We have to acidify that soil, or your endless summer or any of your blue hydrangea are going to be, kind of a pale pink color. So, and there's some plants that are genetically will keep their color, and other plants will shift their color based on acidity. So we have to really do a little bit more experimenting with that for me to give you a great answer. Hydrangea Paniculata Little Hottie. Now, this is a first editions plant, and they feel that that Little Hottie is their home run Paniculata. Yeah, let's face it, they've had some pretty good plants out there. Vanilla Strawberry started the whole kind of aging pink flower out there for hydrangeas, and a lot of other people have jumped in on that. Strawberry Sundae is kind of a nice dense plant with a little bit better stems, smaller flowers, still a lot of that color, that later flower color, that pinker flower color. Berry White is probably the stiffest stemmed of those paniculatas, but also the biggest of it. So Little Hottie is like the compact package. And so they love this. We've seen this plant in test beds for probably 4 or 5 years now, and it's incredibly compact and incredibly floriferous. It's large blooms, so these are not really small blooms that you might get on a smaller plant. They're big size blooms, stiff stems. And they feel this is really the package. And from what we have seen in test gardens, I'll have to agree with them. Now, it kind of does a very interesting aging of the flower. It's not that deep pink like maybe what you saw in Little Line Punch, but it really has a great combination, I think, of that kind of green with that pink. I think that's attractive. It might not come out and just bowl you over, I guess, like Little Line Punch is, but this has a great place in the landscape, very attractive in my mind, and to me, one of the best small hydrangea out there, and perfect to fit into the mix of first editions paniculata hydrangea that are out there. So this is Hydrangea Paniculata Little Hottie, and this is going to be the first year you're going to be able to buy that, and we have plenty of them here. So let's go. Let's get back to those. Well, this isn't really Macrophylla type. This is a Serrata type here. So what's the difference between Serratas and Macrophyllas, and why are we seeing more of these Serrata types on the market? Well, the reason is that Serrata is a type of hydrangea that is much hardier. You can really get a zone, definitely a zone, maybe two sometimes, where these plants not only will survive, but will bloom. And that's really something when you start talking about, when we start talking about Macrophylla hydrangea. But one of the things is that their flowers have not, in straight serratas, are not the best. So of course, all this breeding's been happening with serratas and macrophyllas to try to get these kind of macrophylla-like flowers on a plant that really is a lot more hardy in the landscape. And so that type of breeding is really given birth, if you will, to Let's Dance Ariba. And you know, they're not even calling this a reblooming plant now. They're calling it a constant blooming plant, which is really a statement. There's no two ways about it. They feel that you put this out there, and we've seen it even when we're planting liners. This thing goes to bloom almost immediately, which is great, but we have to keep chopping the blooms off in order to get that vegetative growth. But that speaks volumes to what you're going to see in the landscape. This is going to be in color from probably early June right on through the fall. And you know, even with other rebloomers, you don't really get that kind of constant. You get a few, and a few throughout the summer and into late summer. And you know, it depends on the variety. But this variety you can almost count on that you're just going to have bloom no matter what. So continuous. When it's acidic, this is going to be more of a blue to deep blue purplish kind of thing. You know, very dense and compact, so it's great for grouping, great for a small area. So this is Hydrangea Serrata Let's Dance Ariba. Now, this is one of our favorite plants here, and I need to tell the story about this. Maybe some of you people have heard this. So these plants, they've got huge flowers, as you can see. This picture is exact. These were taken really at our nursery. So it was a real wet summer last year, as we know, and I can remember it was pouring rain in late July, early August last year on one of these Thursdays or Fridays here. I mean, it was pelting rain. And of course, you know, flower that big is like the world's biggest water sponge here. You know, when you get rain like that, there is so much weight that gets on that flower from all the water that it absorbs. You know, we went out there and expected, listen, you know, the flower is great, but we're going to go out there and there's going to be broken stems and they're going to be bent over and it's going to be horrible. And we went out there and we couldn't find one plant that had a stem that bent or broke because of that extra weight from that basically inch an hour rain that we got. So, you know, that made us really take a look at this because the flowers are always stunning. And you can see that plant on the right side. This is really kind of a compact plant. And those huge flowers, I mean, I'll have to say that some of the flowers measure well beyond 12 inches tall, it's just incredible to see those atop this really dense full plant. Now, this is an exclusive to the Worry Free program, which is a result of our partnership with the Synergy Growers. We're really excited about this. This is exclusive to us, and it's got a lot going for it. Its denseness, its ability to hold those flowers up in that rain, as we talked about, and that color. I mean, we had this growing even down in North Carolina at someone's house that we knew, and it even turned color there in the summertime, not when it was colder. This was August. They were still getting temperatures in the 90s, and this flower was turning pink. I got to tell you, this checks off a lot of boxes. This is Hydrangea Worry Free Pink. What did we call it last year? Summer Lights. Was that what we called it? Summer Lights, maybe. And it may not end up being Worry Free Pink these days. We have. You know, we have a lot of problem getting names down that can be trademarkable. Let me put it to you that way. But
It was Pink Avalanche. Tim.
Pink Avalanche. Thank you. I should remember that name. I think I came up with it, but it wasn't good enough to get trademarked, obviously. But if you ask any of our people about that big flowered pink paniculata, it's in worry-free, they'll all know what it is, and we'll set you up with this. So right now, this is Hydrangea Paniculata worry-free pink, but that's probably going to change. But you're going to love the plant. This is the last of the exclusive AB, American Beauty's Native Plants selections. And this is Itia Fountains of Rouge. Great fall color, as you can see, very long inflorescences, probably the longest that I've seen. So it makes it showy when it's in bloom. Very attractive to pollinators when it's in bloom. It's great. It's got that, as we said, spectacular color. It's what I would call a medium-sized Itia, great for massing. This is an excellent wildlife plant. We're really excited about having this in here. And, listen, we find that Itia, especially in bloom, can be kind of subtle. This is the least subtle of the Itia in bloom, I feel. So it's got a lot going for it. This is Itia Fountains of Rouge. So let's talk a couple roses. There's lots of roses out there. And to me, most times when you're talking roses, it's got to be own root because it lives around here. And it's got to be a really good bloomer. And it's got to do something spectacular. And it's got to have some disease resistance, and it's got to be tough. And these roses I put up here are. This is Moonlight Romantica. Great color on the flower. It's got kind of that almost that English or David Austin-ish like flower, but really on a much better plant with deeper foliage. It's fragrant. It's got disease resistant. Great for cut flowers. This is I know there's not many people that are familiar with this, but this is a really good rose right here. You should definitely experiment with these. Everybody's going to love the flower, but your customers are going to love it because it's easier to take care of. Now this plant no one knows, and we've actually sold a lot of this plant to you guys who probably didn't know it. And it's easy to see why. This flower color is just like insanely popular with people when it comes to roses. It's just, we sell plants. We still sell a few of the old grafted plants like Blue Girl and stuff like that. And let me tell you, Blue Girl is just a garbage plant, but it's got that great flower color. This thing is a great plant, and it's got, I think, even better flower color. This is a long blooming plant. You can see that it's kind of a group blooming plant. It looks sort of almost like Floribunda, just because of all those buds together, but it's not really that. The flowers are quite a little bit bigger than what you'd see on a normal Floribunda. Deep dark foliage, great performance in the summer, really good disease resistant foliage, and who can not like that flower color? It's really hard to find anybody that says I don't like that. So this is a great plant, plum perfect, Rosa, plum perfect.
Tim, we had a request on these roses, if you could, if you are aware what the habit is, if it's a climber or a shrub, you just mentioned that.
Sure. Well, the Moonlight Romantica is really, I wouldn't call it a climber, but it's really a taller, narrower growing plant. Climbers are usually going to put off real long shoots of growth. This is not that plant, but it's sort of, it's the largest, probably the larger size of what you're going to find in a shrub rose. On the other hand, Plum Perfect is a dense, more spreading type of plant. Now, the 2.5 by 1.5, that seems a little too small for me, but it's definitely much more compact than the Moonlight Romantica. And then you come to this plant. It's probably perfect that we're looking at this plant. sort of in between. This is Rosa's Sweet Spirit, more of a grandiflora type of flower. So those bunch flowered but tea-like flowers. This color is, I think that my color looks a little harsh, but this is one of the most difficult colors to get on film and to make it come out like you see it in the field. Just rest assured, it's really got more, what I would say, a little bit more of a pinkish reddish tinge than what this picture shows. It's a great bloomer. You know, we had this plant around for a while, and you know, it didn't really, I'll have to say that I think we had this 5 years ago and I kind of just blew it off. And then we started looking again at some of these roses coming from Star, and we actually brought this back. I saw this in bloom last year, and it's really puts on a great show. It's got great disease resistance in the foliage. It's got some fragrance. All three of these roses have that. And it's great for cutting. And as you can see, it's kind of that medium size, and it's going to bloom on and off all summer for you. So this is Rosa Sweet Spirit. Now I put this one in here because no one really knows about some of these proven winter roses. Now you look at that and you say, it's kind of a single flower. You know, what good is this plant? And I would tell you that that this is a real different single plant. It's got that bullseye flower on it that actually is big on the West Coast, but most of the plants on the East Coast that have this really don't like our weather here. It's too humid. So these have been kind of relegated to the West Coast where you have that really strong halo effect. So, but this plant is great on the East Coast. It's very disease resistant. It's got this great mix of orange and pink lavender. It's a dense, full kind of plant, blooms most of the summer, and I like it. It really stands out to me with the coloration and that kind of target-like flower that you're seeing there. And I also wanted to throw in a plug. You know, even Proven Winners is really now focusing on roses, and you know, it's not in our new for 23 thing that you're going to see further on here, but they are introducing a real good group of roses going forward that are full flowered, really floriferous and disease resistant. We here are excited about that. We're going to tell you more about that as we get some of these plants in. Saw them in test gardens last year, but Proven Winners is putting on a huge effort to upgrade their rose program. And I got to say, that when they put their minds to it, they usually come up with some winners here, and I think they will. So, but this is Rosa Ringo All-Star. Couple of interesting Vaccinium. This is part of the bushel and berry program. This is one that they would call a cascading one. You can see it in a hanging basket over there on the right. It's kind of an interesting use of a plant. I can guarantee you that if you put this in the ground, though, it's not going to be a ground cover. It's going to look like kind of a nice, low spreading type of bush. Very fruitful. I was surprised, you know, when they talk about some of these alternate forms, sometimes they give up fruit for a form. Not this one. This is a great bloomer. This is Vaccinium Sapphire Cascade. It's really a little bit more of a flowing, dense, mound forming plant. And Silver Dollar, this is actually one of my favorite new plants out there because we don't get this kind of look here in the East Coast that much. It's really got sort of a eucalyptus-like leaf to it. It's a bigger growing plant and very fruitful also, good berries on it, that kind of thing. But I love the landscape value of this plant. Now, it'll have great fall color to it. There's no doubt about it, but that silvery look is something that seems like it's a little more West Coast than East Coast. And I would say that for this plant kind of puts it over the top. So if you're looking for a blueberry that has a little more of that decorative look in the landscape, I'd highly recommend this one.
Tim, do you know if that is self-fertile?
All blueberries are self fruitful, but they also tend to have much better pollination if there's more than one around, and even better if there's more than one variety around. But if you had it by itself, yes, you would still get blueberries on. Maybe not as much as if you had other ones around it, though. So let's talk about a few perennials here, and you see a theme here of great foliage really stands out for a plant more than the flowers sometimes. This is Actia chocoholic for all you old guys. This used to be Cimicifuga out there, but this is Actia now. What's great about it? Great plant for the back of a garden. It's a big growing plant. It's got great texture, great color, and the flowers are actually just kind of a bonus in a lot of ways. And that's kind of relegating them to say, oh, maybe they're not as good, but they are very effective flowers in the fall. Blooms at a great time in the garden, as we know, late summer and fall. Sometimes there's a lot of gaps in the garden, and then you get these Actias like chocoholic that have looked great all summer with the foliage, and all of a sudden they got that beautiful tall bloom on it that is kind of a mauve pinkish. I found that this is a pretty good pollinator plant. It adds color to a shady area, but man, it's hard to beat that foliage right there. This has got the handpicked for you designation. This has been tested by you guys, been tested by us, and it's passed all our categories with flying colors to be able to designate it as handpicked for you. So you can easily go to your customers and say, hey, this plant's easy to grow, and you're going to be very successful with it. So this is Actia chocoholic. Well, there's nothing that says fall like a good aster, and you say, well, these New England asters, there's a billion of them. Well, there is a billion of them, but it's great when you come up with something that just has this stunning color to it. This is New England Aster Grape Crush. It's a sizable plant, like some of these New England asters can be. Probably about a 2.5 tall by 3.5 wide. But man, this thing flowers like crazy, and how can you beat that color? And it's a very cold hardy, loves in the sun, and it's a spectacular pollinator plant, as many New England asters are. And like all New England asters also, they're salt tolerant. There's a lot going for these things. I think sometimes asters get a bad rap in the garden, and we kind of bypass them, but there's so many great asters that you can grow, and this is one of them. This is Aster Grape Crush.
And we've had a couple questions about deer resistance, and as we're going through these, if you happen to know if it is deer resistant, would you just mention that? I have we do have a website that has more information about all these plants on it as well, but sure. Just as a side question.
Yep. So Amsonia is one of my favorite plants, and the reason I say that it is that it does this thing here. Look at that. I love these plants that kind of come up. You don't see them, and all of a sudden it's like this huge, tightly massed thing coming out of the soil, like you see on the left-hand side there of the left-hand picture. That look is really kind of, it almost makes it look like it's unreal, this plant, when it's flushing like that. I love how the foliage looks when it's flushing. It's really noticeable in the spring when it's coming out, because there's not as many things out there. So that gets me going with this plant. And as you can see on the right, that as it expands, it ages out, the foliage kind of turns more to an olive green. But what I love about it is its form. I love the way it's flushing, and the floriferousness of it is spectacular. You can see those blue star-like flowers that cover the plant in the spring. This is a great early pollinator plant. and it is deer resistant. So I like that too. And so I'm always recommending Amsonias. A lot of people don't use them as much, but you got to love the way that this looks, and it's going to be one of your favorite plants in the garden too. So this is Amsonia Starstruck. Well, you got to throw a clematis in there when looking at things, and who doesn't like that? You know, I'll have to say purple clematis still rule the day, but there's something about the white flowers that make them very popular too. And there's not as many white clematis out there, but this is Tsukiko. I think that's how you pronounce it, but someone else may know that better than me. But what we really like, this is a Raymond Evison clematis. He's really where most of the great new clematis in the market are coming from. And we love this because it's so floriferous. And why I like it too is because it's got some color contrast to it. Look at that group of stamens in the center, that purple look against that white foliage, purple anthers, sorry. I get my anthers and stamens mixed up here. But it's a good climber. It loves full sun. Like all clematis, they sort of love their roots to be kind of cool, yet the top will take that hot sun well. So they really like to be mulched, and they like to have that shade along their roots in order to make any clematis do well. So this is Clematis Tsukiko. Well, Delphinium delgenius. The delgenius, we've been following these plants for the last few years, and I got to tell you, let's face it, delphiniums are pretty spectacular in the landscape. And but what we've found here is that we haven't always done the best job of growing delphiniums. They're hard. They are hard to grow for us here at Pride's Corner. Once they get in the ground, they seem to do fine. But what do we like about this plant? What makes this delgenius so much better than some of the other delphiniums we see out there? Well, look at all the branching on that plant. Look at all the flower spikes on that plant. A lot of the older school delphinium, they give you spectacular flowers like this, but you may only have one or two stalks that come up, and they're much taller than this plant, which makes them a little bit more difficult to deal with in the garden, to be honest with you. You know, they tend to flop. You'd have to go out and try to stake those stems in order to keep them the flowers looking great. But here you have a plant that's kind of more of an 18 to 24 inch plant, tall and wide, still has the big flower on it. It still has that deep blue color, which is sort of magnetic for people in the garden, let alone butterflies and hummingbirds. It's all delphinium are deer resistant, which is good, and it even reblooms. This plant's got a lot going for it. It's got all of what you like in delphiniums, but in a denser, less maintenance package. So if you're looking for great delphiniums, any of the delgenius are where you want to go. This is Delphinium delgenius glitzy. Well, I'm partial to panicums. This is one of, we sell a lot of panicums, but I still feel that they are really one of the biggest kind of secrets for great landscape plants in our area. This is a native grass. All panicums are native around here, and this plant fills a great niche. This is a very tall, narrow, upright plant. And as you can see, you know, you got to have the space for this. 7 to 8 feet tall, that's a sizable plant. But what it does is it keeps that kind of narrow, upright form, has that great mid to late summer inflorescence that has that great texture on it. It's got really blue foliage, and this does not lodge in the landscape. You think something that big that it's going to do that split that some former tall narrow panicums have done, but this plant stays solidly upright, perfect for grouping. You can do a little bit of barrier planting with this. You can you can do a little yard separation, a little privacy thing with this, and have that really a kind of a unique look in the plant that does it. Again, love that blue foliage. It's got a pretty good fall color also, long bloom, but great alone, great together, very hardy, and as always, good pollinator plant. Birds love this plant for the seed. It's got a lot going for it. So this is Panicum Blue Fountain. Well, you're going to see, you're definitely going to see some hibiscus here. And, it's sort of funny about hibiscus, they're fall blooming, or well, late summer and into fall blooming. But the secret is that we sell far more hibiscus in the spring when they look like just stalks popping out of the pot than we do in the summer and fall. So we're busy up there around this time of year getting it ready so that we can start heating up these plants to get them to put out some growth earlier, because no one wants to buy or sell a complete empty pot, do they? But so these are this group of hibiscus. This is from Star Roses and Plants, and this is the Adore series. It's a couple of deeper, one kind of a lavender pink and one a deep pink. This is Adore and Passion. Just again, what we like about these things, pretty floriferous. They bloom at a great time in the garden. They attract pollinators, which is great. Big showy flowers. Love those dark center eyes that you have there, but these will not skimp on color. You can put them in a group, you can put them separate. They're big enough to put on a show by themselves. There's no doubt about it. So, and it's a great summer plant for pollinators. So these are hibiscus head over heels Adore and Passion, and they are in the Bloomables program. A dark mystery. Well, this is it's no mystery, why we like this. It's got that dark foliage, a lot of new dark foliaged hibiscus out there. It's a bigger growing one, that 5 to 5.5 feet tall and wide. That's a big plant, let me tell you. But man, that flower is like the perfect color to show off against that foliage. That kind of light pink with that deep center eye. I can't think of a better color to really contrast with that foliage color. So, this is you could probably grow this in a container if you want. It should be a big container if you're going to do it. But this is one of those plants. It's kind of this big, kind of really car-stopping type of specimen that people are going to say, wow, look at that plant. This is a wow plant. There's no doubt about it. Again, pollinator attractor, like all hibiscus, pretty deer resistant. So this is Hibiscus Dark Mystery. And we wouldn't be complete without putting in a proven winners hibiscus here. Again, great summer habit, great summer plant, like all the hibiscus are. And this is a little bit denser, compact form here. Green foliage, but the flowers are huge. They got kind of that blush on it. There's some white, there's some pink, there's some deep red in there. Really showy flower. Like, again, this is like all the hibiscus, huge amounts of bloom, nice compact form. Attracts pollinators, especially hummingbirds. That obviously that red eye was always going to do that, and deer resistant. So this is Hibiscus summerific spinderella. Now, one of the things that we do great around here is German iris, and let's face it, there's not a lot of people out there growing German iris because they're a pain in the butt to grow. They need to be treated correctly. They need to be dipped. They need to be they have disease problems, especially in containers growing. They have borer issues. Man, a lot of people have just gotten out of that market. And we may be a little crazy, but we sort of love those plants. They kind of define us here at Pride's Corner. We want to grow those difficult plants, and let me tell you, we grow great German iris. And these are just a couple of new selections that we have here. Some, it's sort of a change in cast of German iris here at Pride's Corner because sometimes the supply for particular varieties that we love gets interrupted. So there's always a lot of different varieties that we get, but we have a couple things about German iris that we're sticklers on. One is they got to be rebloomers. We are not growing any German iris that don't rebloom. Some better than others, but all of these German iris that we're selling have a late summer and fall bloom. They're obviously great cutting plants. They're deer and rabbit resistant. I love German iris myself because I'm one of these guys that loves to have a great garden, but I'm never home to take care of it. Well, German iris kind of do that for me. They're great when when they're in bloom. They kind of hold that space with the foliage. I kind of like them. They really have a different look out there. And if you love having cut flowers, any German iris is good for you here. So this is Iris Germanica Bernice's Legacy on the left and Immortality on the right. Just a couple of a selection of German iris that we have great availability on now, and we grow, I think, better than anyone else. Oh, Monardas. Well, there's nothing like Monardas in the garden. One, because they have such a great flower show, and two, because they attract loads and loads of pollinators. But the old school Monarda was always like, okay, when's the powdery mildew coming? When is this tall, lanky thing that has great flowers on it? When is it going to collapse in the garden? When do I have to grow something around it to cover it up because it's really going to look bad? Well, I got to tell you that a lot of these new Monardas that are coming out, including Leading Lady Raspberry here, is one of those really dense spreading Monardas. So obviously it's not going to be floppy. Two, still has the flower show. I mean, this is like a carpet of bloom looking at that. And it blooms earlier too. Let's face it, a lot of the other Monardas are kind of later blooming. You get sort of that benefit of seeing some of this bloom earlier, so you can kind of stage different Monarda if you'd like through a planting sequence in your garden. Incredibly attractive to bees and butterflies. Again, Monardas are sort of the backbone pollinator plant for certain times of year in the garden. Deer resistant also. They tolerate partial shade. They grow in full sun. They certainly tolerate moist soils also. So this is and this one has got a pretty good powdery mildew resistance too. It sounds like I may have to get some of these for my garden too. I sort of like that. But this is Monarda Leading Lady Raspberry. Porteranthus. Well, not a lot of people know this plant. It's a great native plant here, and it's a bigger plant too, by the way. And we've had trouble, I think, finding this plant also, but it's in our American Beauties Native Plants program, and this is one of those what I think is one of those wonderful plants that kind of fills some great space, and it has this texture which is really hard to get in a lot of gardens. It's a summer bloomer also, and you can see those pink flowers there. The effect of them alone, if you saw that flower alone, you'd say, but you look at it together on this plant with that kind of finer foliage and even finer flower, it really adds something to the garden. It stands out just because of that texture. It helps that it's a very heavy blooming plant. It also helps that it's good in partial sun or full sun. And it also helps that it's drought tolerant too. A lot going on with that plant. Good summer bloom, long summer bloom, great support for pollinators. and it attracts butterflies, and pretty hardy too at zone 4. So there's a lot going on for this plant. It's not one of those plants that's going to come and whack you over the head like that Monarda does with that kind of just carpet of color. But I got to tell you that this is a great look in the garden. I think you're going to like it. It's Porteranthus Pink Profusion, and it's in our American Beauty's Native Plants program. Well, salvia, I'm always I always say to people here, and I always have, well, who really buys these white salvia? Does anybody really want white salvia kind of thing? And every year I'm proven wrong. There's an old school variety whose name escapes me right now that we sell quite a little bit of, but Color Spire Snow Kiss here I've seen in the garden at Walters, and it really puts on a show. And far more bloom than the older school salvias that you're kind of used to. There's a little bit of pink in this flower, so it kind of shades it a little bit. It's a great blender with a lot of different other types of salvia. It still has a lot of the same thing going for it. Very heavy bloomer, very hardy, loves full sun, drought tolerant, a good pollinator plant. Still has that fragrant foliage also. But this is it's got a little bit different color, and as you can see, it's a pretty profuse bloomer. So this is Salvia Color Spire Snow Kiss. Now here's another plant that we put in our American Beauty's Native Plants program, and this is Scutellaria Appalachian Blues. Now Scutellaria has been a harder plant to find, and we like this plant. And what's great about this Scutellaria is it's much heavier blooming than some of the other Scutellaria that's out there. And another good thing is that it seems like it's becoming more available. This is a nice clump forming plant that's great for massing in a garden. I love the fact that it has these kind of light, airy flowers that are strung along this kind of open spike that you can see there. Great blue color. Pollinators love it. It tolerates partial shade well. It's got a lot going on for it. Scutellaria Appalachian Blues. Look for this plant, try this plant. I think you're going to be really surprised how good it really is. You can't have new plants without talking about sedum, because there's always a sedum out there. Now, this is a little bit different sedum, I would say. Very, very small foliage. And the foliage is kind of a real steel, almost silvery blue steel. It really in the landscape kind of stands out just because of that. It's kind of a low mounding type of plant, and that texture really makes it stand out. But the way that it flowers up, obviously you can hardly see any foliage on this plant right now because there's just so much flower power on it. And these rosy pink flowers cover the plant in sometime in late July through August kind of thing. It's really more of a ground cover, but not a true ground cover, I would say. It doesn't creep along the ground. It's still got that form to it kind of thing. It's really got an airy texture, and with that color, it's really effective. So this is kind of a neat plant that you should try. It's sedum, steal the show. So I've gotten through those plants. I've already kept you 5 minutes too long, so I apologize about that, but I'm going to give you the sneak preview here for what's coming in 2023 that we're excited about. So this is Let's Dance Skyview, and if Mark Salou, the owner here at Pride's Corner, was on this call, he'd say, "Oh, look at that blue. That's money blue." He calls that money blue right there. That is like the quintessential New England blue hydrangea color right there. And that's what this plant, that's what Let's Dance Skyview is going to have. It's that sky blue, big flowered, very heavy bloom, and this is really where they've been going with these, with the new PW Macrophyllas. Dense, full, almost constant blooming, great blue color, and really great in the landscape. So we're excited about that color. There's no doubt about it. And on this plant, which as we've seen for the last couple of years in test gardens and in containers, is really a great looking plant. There's a lot of saleability in a container with this plant. So this is Hydrangea Let's Dance Skyview. You're going to see a few. You're going to see a few paniculatas here, and this one is called. This is called Hydrangea Pufferfish. It's a very unique name. I got to hand them that. And but what did we like about this plant? Well, I would say it's a slightly larger Bobo. So what we like about Bobo is that it's dense, it's full, and it blooms like crazy. And this plant is probably a foot or two taller, but dense and full and blooms even more if that's possible. So as you can see from this landscape shot on the left, it's just like covered with flowers. And now the flowers have a little bit different texture to them. They look like they're a little airier kind of thing, as opposed to, I would say the other end of the scale was that hydrangea worry-free pink that we showed you back there, which is this big, massive, heavy textured. This is kind of light and airy, but it is covered with flowers. Unlike a lot of the hydrangea on the market, this one does not age to pink. It actually ages to green, and that is effective in its own way in the garden also. Strong stems, compact form, super bloomer. This plant will stand out definitely from a plant like Bobo because of the texture and the size, but it'll be equal to that flower power you get from it. This is Hydrangea Pufferfish. And then we have Hydrangea Tiny Quickfire. Now this plant just blooms. It sets so many buds on such a small plant. It's just hard to believe that there can be this many buds on that. Now, obviously, the flowers are smaller, as you can see, but it's if you were just walking by this, you'd be hard pressed to find the foliage on this. It's a great look. It blooms early, like all the quick fires will, but very dense. The tightest, smallest, most compact of really almost any hydrangea paniculata you're going to find. The flowers age to red pink. I haven't noticed that as much at this point, but we haven't had an opportunity to grow this as much yet, and we also have not been in the garden at that time of year. That's how new this plant is. But I think just because of its size and its floriferousness, it's going to be huge. Again. Also, you're going to find that, like all paniculatas, they're pretty good deer-resistant plants. So this is Hydrangea Tiny Quickfire.
So Tim, a quick question came up about that one. Donna wanted to know how long it stayed in bloom.
It's going to be, I would say it's going to be long blooming. That's what we've been told. I think it'll rebloom some. I think we need to take a look at it here. We're going to have lots of these in the nursery this year, and we'll have a better idea on this. But you're going to have a significant period of bloom on this. Hydrangea Pop Star. Well, this will be for sale in after the first of the year in 2023, and this is what I would call. This would be what I would call the replacement for what? Come on, what is the plant? Oh, just watch this. So this is really going to be the twist and shout that you want to grow. I think if people were able to look back or look ahead, they'd say, you know, maybe I shouldn't introduce this plant because I know this one's coming and it's so much better. And this is a much better twist and shout. Why? It's far more compact. It's got some of the same things you love about twist and shout, with the dark stem color, the real dark foliage, the much higher level of hardiness, being a zone 4 as opposed to a zone 5 or 6. But that compactness and its ability to bloom is really going to make this a great plant. This is like one of those plants that looks as good in a container as it does in the ground. And I think that it's such a huge step up that we're excited about growing this. I love the compactness of it. And as you know, twist and shout can be, man, that thing wants to move. This plant is going to stay where you want it to stay. It's great for small spaces. You're going to be able to group this in the landscape and not be overrun by it. There's a place for bigger macrophyllas in the landscape, but there's a lot of space for these too. And I think you could probably even put this in a container on a deck and be completely satisfied with it. So this is Hydrangea Endless Summer Pop Star. It'll be big in 2023. So unbelievably, I've gotten to the end of this and only about 13 minutes too long. So I apologize for that, but I hope I got you some great information. We still are available to answer a few questions if you have more, but I want to thank you for tuning in and looking at these great plants, and talk to your Pride's Corner team. If you see something that you like, something that was exciting, they are more than happy to help you put them on your spring order. And spring is coming here. There's no doubt about it. So, but thank you again for tuning in. And Allison, are there any other questions?
Nothing's coming up. Kara was wanting to know about Invincibelle Sublime. Do you know if we're going to have any of that?
I do believe we're going to have some of that. It may not be as big of a push there, but I remember seeing that. I believe that we have some that we are going to be growing for next year, I believe.
We are recording this. We'll have it up on our YouTube channel as well as posted on our website. We'll probably be sending out an email as well. So if you want to share it with your coworkers, or you want to go back through to take better notes, it will be available at the end of the week. And we're happy to being able to share all these exciting new plants with you.
Yeah, so thanks everybody. It's kind of a long haul at times sitting through these things, but you know, I'll have to say, I always think these things are these webinars are going to be a little bit shorter, but you guys had great questions, which was awesome. And there's always a lot to talk about with new plants, isn't there? So, you know, if you have any questions, certainly pass them on. We'd love to answer more. I'm sorry I couldn't answer truthfully everything that you may have asked, but I appreciate the questions, and I hope you guys are getting ready for a really busy spring. So thanks again.